Just
Hi, Terry.
well, hello. Well, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Well,
Good morning.
from where I'm at, and I guess afternoon for you, correct?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. What's been happening? I feel like we've chatted already, but we haven't because you messaged quite a bit, and so I feel like, and also on the group, thanks for you been commenting quite a bit.
Yeah.
But we've been trying to do this interview for a little while, and I was going to quickly read the Facebook comments, and because I was trying to remember all the things you do, because you've left quite a few different messages talking about a few different things. But as I was running late, I thought, no, I'm just gonna come on. So I'm gonna ask you. I'm wide open to find out about all the things you do because I know it's quite a few different things. I remember the Reiki, but I think that's kind of mostly what I remember. Are you still um is that your kind of main thing, or are you still in working, or you?
Yeah, I would say I'm in transformation mode. The Reiki I've done for quite a bit of time, but it begun as a volunteer type of thing, and now it's becoming a slow business for me. So I'm interested in creating metaphysical healing for all. And I've been doing it kind of on a freelance for some time. So it's with that and readings that I encompass. The readings are my main love right now because it helps people bring out the best in them. But when I do any type of healing, it's outward focused. It's mainly so, people are feeling better, more energized. And I think that's where I'm interested in, is just being in that connection with others.
So when you say outward focused,
Hmm.
how does that differ from inward focused?
That's a great question. Well, as I learned from my dear friend Dawn, because we are both healers, how that works is we actually, with our intuition, will actually feel the individual. So it's like using your own personal energy to tap into theirs, but we always ask for permission before we do such a thing. It's like if you have a closet that's personal to you, but you don't want anyone to walk into that closet. It's most important to always ask for permission before you put yourself in there. So it's like our energy, our bodies are going into that person, into that focus. But what's interesting about Reiki is you are channeling through spirit guides and the divine team. And how that also works is the teachers who enforce that, it's kind of like a grid code, so to speak. It's something we don't see. It gets very scientific, but yet not. So it's universal. So basically it's a life force energy that goes into this. And as we set up for our clients, we have them lay on a table and you have to ask permission. That's always a given. Are you willing to receive? Is your intention good for this energy to help you heal? So we don't ever claim Reiki to be of healing. It helps ignite what your body needs to help heal itself. So whatever that may be. So
And is that what you mean to be the difference in terms of outward focused?
yes,
Because it's outward as in from, you believe that to be from divine spirit, is that right?
yes, that's correct.
Right, okay, and that's what you mean by the outward. So the
Correct.
outward, rather than you asking permission to kind of go inward into someone's energy.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got that right.
Well,
Yeah,
that's fascinating because I think I've only had a Reiki session once. It was so relaxing.
good.
People
What you
that do
experienced from it? What was your experience, or what you got out of it?
um a lot of peace. It was very peaceful experience,
Hmm.
and I would say I felt lighter. A friend of mine had a few sessions, and she said, "Oh, why don't you go? Don't just suspend whether you believe or not. Don't think about stuff like that. Just go from the point of just keep an open mind, and you don't even have to overthink it, really." But I got a lot of, yeah, I would say it felt very peaceful, and I would definitely say I felt lighter. If I felt energetically, I felt lighter after I'd been than before I went. I don't, and I would suspend all judgment as to how that happened, but I definitely felt lighter and I felt more resourced as well. Well, I suppose, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, but yeah. So when you're doing it, um,
Mhm.
so is that something that you've always felt that you've had a kind of connection um, with spiritual energy? I mean, I suppose you may well say that we all do, but as far as in terms of you being able to channel that as a healer, is that something that you realized from a young age, or?
Yes, ma'am. Since I was the age of 3, I used to see, oh yeah, I grew up in a Catholic household, so that was interesting in of itself. I used to see dead people. When I was a child, I had invisible friends, and I had one named Charlie.
You had or you have?
Oh, that was my past. They would come up, but they didn't harm you. It's more like, you know how I'm seeing you right now? That's how I would see them, but I wouldn't tell my parents or my grandmother that. I was a little frightened and I didn't understand it. But to them, they just played off like a just Terry Ann's playing in her own world. She's just off doing whatever she's doing. She just has she's pretending she has a playmate. So they didn't understand that with me. And then I got older. It's like I was afraid to tell people what I can do. I can see things, I can feel things all the time. I mean, and I did well in school. I actually was tested because I wanted to make sure there wasn't something wrong with me. You know, why can she do this? Why she can do that? And my mother used to be so overprotective of that. Like, and then as I got into my teenage years, I was into, using pendulums a lot. That fascinated me when I would see them energetically move and didn't understand, like, oh wow, that's fascinating. So I kind of dove into it more, but I had to do it privately from having that type of Christian tradition. Well, obviously now I'm not of that, but you have to, it's more like discovery because I knew there was something there. And and then I've discovered my grandmother, one of my grandmothers has had those abilities. So it does get passed down from generation to generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot in what you just said. I guess I mean I know people that have those kind of beliefs, and for them it's well it's not uncommon, is it, to have these spiritual beliefs, and for the people that do have that, feel that they have that connection with the spirit world, it actually feels pretty normal. So it's interesting the way that you spoke about it, because for you it was always normal. It might have been everybody else that might have said this, that, or the other about it, but for you it was a normal experience from a young age. So
Yeah.
yeah, but one that your faith, your existing faith, did the faith at the time growing up wasn't really aligned with, is that what you were saying?
Yes, that's true, Anna. It was not in alignment of me, and I questioned everything. I was quite that kid. I'm like, and I'd be all about the whys, like, well, and I'd be analytical even with the Bible, like, well, I know these are stories, but this doesn't make sense. I was drove them with that, and I didn't feel it wasn't something just was missing, something wasn't connecting. I would literally walk into our old church and I would feel exhausted after I left. And I thought, there's something wrong here. But as I learned, as I developed this ability and as I got older, um, some of us are more sensitive to this energy, how we were born. I have, in my research and from talking to other practitioners and people who do this work, a lot of us have dealt with either some sort of traumatic of trauma event, which I think it ignites it more. Yes, truly, everybody has this ability. And I've noticed with musicians over the years, I've observed in that, I feel like you guys have like this channel of muses coming through, which brings inspiration to music, whether it's writing, lyrics, um, the vocal cords is always magical to me, in that. And even some people who can naturally just pick up a piano. I mean, I have a cousin who can do that, like doesn't even need the notes, He can go crazy with it. And I looked at Stephen going, how on earth are you even doing that? My mother and I, we need the notes. When my mother was alive, we were the ones like, no, we need to look at it to make sure we're doing this correctly.
And for some people, it's very natural, and they don't need. I mean, Stevie Wonder's a case in point, isn't he? He
He's a miracle.
plays
It really.
brilliantly, and he doesn't know what the notes actually are, but he plays with it. He's a brilliant player, and so accurately. I just kind of, you don't even question. That's quite a miraculous, seemingly miraculous
Yeah.
ex, demonstration of any kind of connection, because I know that he's very religious. So yeah, so I mentioned the Reiki because that's what I could remember. So would you say that that's your main, well, you said you're in a process of transformation. Did you work, or have you always been in spiritual healing, or are you transferring from another job to do spiritual healing?
Transferring from my job right now to spiritual healing. So that's what this is morphing to. So I'm working right now in concert with my friend Don. He's 66. He's been doing healing modalities himself for a while. So it's kind of, we're getting the business kind of concept down and construct. I feel this is my calling. I love, like I said, I love doing readings. So as far as, yeah, Reiki's part of it. I also channel. So what that encompasses is I can do it through cards. And actually, I'll show you. I have two types I use. So, and then I explained it to people. It's just more like a look. So you have something to go by. I don't know if you can see these, but I know my lighting here is horrible because
Oh.
of kind of the terrible day. So I have, my first set is my Russian fortune telling cards. I got that gifted from a long time ago friend, and don't laugh, she was a Durrani. We just lost touch. Her name was Bonnie. So why I find these fascinating, because part of, I'm not only French, but part of my background, there is some serious European, and I think I have Russian somewhere.
Oh, did
So
you say you are French, or you're half?
I'm French, but I have Russian and German. I'm a little typical American Heinz 57, as I call it. So I have a
Do
little,
you speak
little
French
mixture.
as well?
And not very well, no.
I was
my,
kidding.
my mother, I say come see, come saw, but it's awful. She didn't really enforce it in our household. I don't
Fair
know why.
enough. Yeah. Well,
And I
I'm
learned
curious.
it in school, but you don't, you use it, you lose it kind of thing. But I did shared with a friend recently. I might go, play Babel and play with some languages. So it's
Uh-huh.
enough to get by, but not enough to make a real conversation.
Yeah. So the cards then.
Yeah, these are my Russian fortune. I know this probably looks a little dark, but they look like colored puzzles. And what I loved about the artist, it's not your typical kind. And so it spreads like through rows of 5, and you just match them to where the arrows and direction it is. What I like about it, it's a visual for my clients. So they'll see that, and things that will come up through them will make sense. So it's a tool. Now, someone asked me, can you read without cards? Absolutely. If we're open to the experience of channeling, it is, but I always believe in protecting yourself. I think of the medium John Edwards. He's a great example. He does this actual meditation to protect yourself in the morning. So it's a shower. So you basically take your shower, but you clean out all that you envision all the black soot, the bad energy, and let that go to the drain. And then we fill it up ourselves with white golden light. I will protect myself as I joke around like a condom, if you want to put a visual analogy. So I'll put a spit of white light around me, and it's like a zipper. So you zip yourself up everywhere you go. Because
Okay.
people who are more sensitive, energy can attack, but people are not unknowing of it, especially if it's dark energy. Yeah, that's where I'm big with people wearing stones on yourself. If you do it in your bra, on your pocket, so big on that. But make sure you cleanse your stones too, because we're all energy. We collect, and we don't know we're collecting that stuff. So if you don't get rid of it, it can exhaust the crap out of you. And
Oh.
so, and for your line of work, I admire you, because to be in front of all those people, an audience of tour, I'm like, how, my word, you do that is admirable. I give you credit, you know, and to find your sleep and to find your rhythm in between all that rigorous touring. I can't imagine what that's going to be like for you.
Well, it's a lot of fun. They're great songs, and so it's always a really joyous occasion. So
Yeah.
it's not that difficult.
Well, that's good. Well, at least yeah, it shows. So it looks like you
Yeah,
guys have a good time.
it's a privilege really to be able to do that job because it's so much fun and
Yeah.
everyone's there to have a good night, so
Yeah.
it's easy to enjoy it with everyone really.
Yeah.
That's the spirit that I take into the gig because the music's so much fun to do. So
Yeah.
so with you, you talked about the crystals as well. So what other things you use? You've got the cards, you've got
Yep.
the crystals. As you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't necessarily need any of them is what you're saying, but you do you use, you spoke kind of about the pendulum as well. Do you like to use that? What else do you like to use?
Yeah, I love the pendulum and I find it fascinating. And I think I'd like to see where people's energy fields are and how are you taking care of your boundaries? You know, it's all scientific, really. People don't think like, no, you got to experiment to try or you're not going to know. So what I do is it'll spin around and around. Now you can do, I'll give you an example. Try something simple. So if you want to ask a simple question. So you hold it just so there is a class you can take on how to do that. So I would say to my divine spirit guides, can you show me yes? So the yes will go in one direction. So I do is clockwise. And I'll say, can you show me no? It sets you up before you ask the question. Then it'll do the no will go counter. And then if it doesn't know, it'll sway from side to side. So that's how sometimes I will check in with myself because really it's kind of difficult to read you. It's easier for me to read other people because your ego, your headspace, your thinking can cloud up the most accurate questions at times.
Do you have someone read? Do you need somebody in with what you do? Do you need somebody else to read you then as a psychic?
Sometimes, but usually if
Do
I
you-
meditate quiet enough, if you take the time to like cut out the noise and listen, you usually can get your answers. But if you're too much in your head, yeah, sometimes we check in with each other, but I usually will pick someone I don't know. So it's not personal and it's usually has more accuracy in that way. But what I believe in readings is once you receive one, you got homework to do to make things manifest. It doesn't mean like, oh, this is going to magically happen and oh, I'm going to meet this wonderful man. We're going to get married. No, you got to put the work into it. And I usually will give special instructions for people that I'm guided to let them know. I usually would ask them to do a recording on their phone. But if they don't have it, like, hey, I forgot my Android or my Apple phone, fine. I always supply pen and paper. It's whatever you feel comfortable for you.
Mm,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. It must feel, how far into transferring from your, I don't know what your day job is then. I think you probably told me before,
Yeah,
but
I could share that with you. It's funny, a lot of us who are artistic, who haven't fully dove into it, are usually healthcare workers. When my mother was alive, I had a very talented mom. But she was always so modest. She would just pot of like, eh. I'm like, Mom, people can't do half what you do. I don't understand that. So she was a nurse. I'm not a nurse. I didn't choose to dive in fully into the nursing part. I mean, although one friend encouraged me I should become a phlebotomist because she thinks I'm good with needles. I said, yeah, no, I'm good. Not my thing. But I love doing the admin work. I love engaging with patients. And I help with temperatures and and I help them with triage and things like that. And of course, I do referrals, I do authorizations. So I do like 8 different things in one thing. So people wonder why I don't burn myself out. I go, I got to slow this down and figure this out. So
right.
it's prioritizing that job to that, but I have a goal set to leave it in the next 6 months, and I will. So that's why I'm set myself up. So like I said, this stuff has been sort of freelance on the side, but I also want to teach people how to do this for themselves because a lot of us can, and to
Mm.
and to access what's going on inside. So I'm fascinated with that. My latest project, I have been so drawn to reincarnation and past lives and people interconnection. I don't know.
Oh,
Now, have you ever heard the author Dr. Brian Weiss? He's based out of Miami, Florida. Get that book, Many Lives, Many Masters. And this was based on a true story. He had to change the clients' names in situations for protection. He started as a true psychologist and but he got it into the hypnotherapy and helped this one woman I won't forget in such case studies. So I'll make that part quick. She had to go through many sessions to get rid of her anxiety, to get rid of a lot of things that just weren't happening or blocks in her life. And so when I read him, then I started going to people for me on that. Like I said, no, there's something off here. And I've learned through one person who is an expert that says, Terri, you've got a lot of past lives. So I've had to clear a few. And there's one woman I met through Dawn, who she lives in London. Her name's Claire Macham. And she did some amazing work with healing. And yes, I could be in my home. She could be actually in London. I just have to agree with what she's doing, have to have quiet, and then she does her work. And you can feel it. If you believe it, you open up. It's amazing how that works. Then we would do a Zoom, and then we would discuss what was going on. But she had to take 4 sections to do what she had to do with me. And she says, Terri, you were the most challenging person I ever worked with.
oh, that sounds like a good thing, though, I reckon.
It's a positive thing. She really helped me unstuck something that had to be stuck. And you want to even hear the bizarre part of it? I had a soul from a past life still in me. I'm like, and I said to Claire, how does that even happen? Even I was like, what the heck?
Oh my goodness.
What
So,
happens when you reincarnate, if your soul is not clear and you jump in too quickly, I know this sounds like a strange thing to say, you could have something that wasn't complete in your past life. So in my case, I had this gentleman, and it was kind of a bizarre situation. He was in love with this woman. They were back in the 30s or something, where you had arranged marriages. You could marry who you want. Then he met his true love, and then interesting what happened there. They snuck behind each other on the true love affair, but he wasn't like egotistical, like a womanizer. So what happened, because of my health stuff, it was connected with this past life. I was having problems with my digestion, you name it. So she shot him basically in the
right.
stomach.
Oh,
She shot him in the stomach because she found out he had an affair. And
oh,
what
and your past life was the guy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, which is really
Oh,
strange. So she had to
what are
do
you
4
thinking
sessions.
that the feelings of digestion was because in a past life you'd been shot?
Yeah, now I'm fine.
Oh,
It's weird. And I was wondering why I couldn't meet somebody. I said and I remember saying to Claire, is there something wrong with me? I can help other people's relationships and heal everything else, but I felt like there was this block and I couldn't understand why. So she helped clear that up. So it took 4 sessions. She had to do one energy work on one side and on the other. Then she had to release everything through the throat. You have to drink a lot of water, and you gotta self-care the weekend before you get your energy up. But I told her to this day, because we're gonna get together next year. I'm gonna go visit her in London.
what's
But
her name?
Claire Machum, I think it's Machum. I can send you her email and link that
Oh,
later.
I'm so curious. I mean, this is all kind of news to me. I've never asked anybody about their
Yeah.
belief in past lives before. I think there might be someone I know that is a firm believer in past lives. I'm not quite sure. So it's fascinating to me to find out
Mhm.
that about how that can manifest in the present, how that could manifest in the present day.
It does, and it has affected people, but people don't realize it because you're going to go to it. Okay, there's something wrong with me. I need to see the psychologist, or oh, maybe I need medication. And I think we're such in a world, and it's not easy for me to say what I'm about to say. I think we're so obsessed with our diagnosis that we believe it and then we get ourselves sick. Now, I think some CDC guidelines probably wouldn't be happy with me saying that, but it's true because our body is naturally healing. And I'm not telling you don't take medication, don't get your vaccinations, whatever you need to do to stay responsible and healthy. As we get older, believe me, we lose our immunity. We do, and it catches up to us. I'm not saying don't do that, but definitely I always encourage people do extra research and try some natural stuff too, and see what works for you. I'm of that, but I sometimes think when our words get attached to our minds, that's what, oh, okay, I'm not going to critical think this is what I'm going to believe, and you do get your body sicker. I'm actually healthier than I used to be. I had some problems for a while.
And
So
let me
sometimes,
getting
yeah.
distracted. So I'm noticing that lovely flower in your hair.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
gorgeous. Is that a flower on the wall behind you as well?
Oh, behind my wall, I know I'm on a low thing. That's actually, I did that painting, and I can pull it up, but they're dolphins. Oh,
Oh, the
did I?
dolphins.
Oh, did I miss you? Did I just kick you out and I didn't mean to? Oh, hold
Well, I can still see you, but maybe you can't still see me.
on. Okay. Can
Oh,
you see everything in the
I can
background or
see
no?
you. Yeah, I can see the painting. It's
Yeah,
the same colors
yeah,
as
I did
the.
that. Yeah, it's one
You
of
did
those
it? Did you
color.
paint it?
I did that. We did one of those colors with the twist kind of thing. There we go. Yeah, it's one of those painting places you go and you all paint together. Yeah, I love to
Yeah.
paint sometimes, and I know lately I'm doing the pottery thing. So I'm come from a very creative family.
Yes, it sounds like it. I now that you're saying it, I remember you mentioned the pottery. So, and also I know you were doing some singing as well. So you
I
do.
just started that.
Yeah, so you do come from a very creative family. It's great that you love to do that you love to do so many things and you find time to do so many things. But from what you're saying, the healing is a real passion for you. And what would you say, how are you going about making that transformation? Presumably, from what you've said, you're still working full time or you working part time?
Crazy enough, I still am working full time. So yeah, so the transformation goes is creating a new Facebook page that's all of my own. I come up with these ideas. One of my friends says, I love this idea because, well, we don't know what's going on with Hurricane Ian. That's a whole nother ick right now. I'm just grateful I'm in an area where I'm not near the waters. I'm up on highland. So I was going to think, and if people were bored tomorrow in the next few days, but power is still good, they're home. I'm deciding to advertise a hurricane kind of special and do readings on private chat.
What
So
is it, a hurricane, did you say?
it's a big one here in Florida right now. It's Ian.
Oh,
It's a 4 or 5. It's a huge one. I mean,
oh my
it's
goodness.
lingering over in Sarasota, so I'm like 3 hours away from that. So we're hoping it's gonna die down to a 2, 3. This is probably the biggest we've had in a long time. Yeah, so everyone's kind of nervous. We've had people who've had to evacuate. My sister-in-law, my brother are evacuating probably right now from Daytona Beach. Yeah,
Oh, okay. All
yeah.
right. So uh, how far away from, so it's 3 hours away. Is it, so you're hoping it'll just die down. So you
I
just
know.
need to wait. And have you been in this position before where there's been a threat, but then it's kind of just died down?
Yes, ma'am, I have. I'm pretty fortunate in where I live. I live out in a rural area, so I'm really up highland, so that's the blessing of it. But we do have more lower areas of level like Crystal River, which is of the home of the manatees. So there's a lot of water, like a water around there. And then
Uh,
home is sauce. I have a girlfriend, actually, she just said back to Chicago until this is over. Because she's right, her little bungalow, she's another musician. She's right smack on the water where she can just take
okay.
off on a kayak. That's the one I kayaked with, was Kellyanne. But
Right.
she was before me, like, I'm out of here. I said, okay, well, good luck with that. But
You're high enough. So do you
yeah.
feel the energies? What energies do you feel when there's a hurricane around?
Ooh, it's very heavy. It feels, I can't explain. It's like dense, and it's not exhausting, but it's kind of like you could feel there's a thickness in the air. It's like if you could feel that or tactile, it's very thick feeling
Right.
before that storm breaks out, and then you feel the sense of release. Yeah, I usually physically, and that I will feel the pressure of it.
Yeah, and would it affect any of your, do you feel it would affect any of your ability um to do the work that you do?
Not necessarily, no. It's all about intention. So I always will ask I call it my team, as my spirit teams, like, hey, can you protect me here? And then also, I know many doesn't mention Reiki. Actually, for those who are master like myself, you can actually put intention in your area. So I've been doing, I call it the Reiki grid. So I grid the area to make sure the storms are less severe. They push away. Doesn't mean it's magical, but we're all about prayer. And my friends who do prayers, and we do it all. So we hope for less damage. But yeah, it doesn't affect me too badly. I'm grateful for that. So
Oh,
I
good.
could do
I'm
my
just
work
curious.
anytime.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I know that it changes sometimes if there's a storm just brewing, you can feel well, as you said, the air can get thicker from a scientific point of view, there are changes in the atmosphere, aren't there? There's kind of, I don't know what you call it, ions. I don't know if that's even a scientific word. But the climate changes before there's an actual storm, isn't that
Yeah,
right? The kind of
that's
it
right.
gets charged differently. So I'm just
It,
curious of whether it messes with you Reiki mellow, whether it just kind of, or if you have to kind of, like you said, you put out some healing vibes or some
yeah.
dispersive vibes. Yeah, well, I really wish for you that it just kind of dissipates and just settles and it doesn't come any nearer and the whole thing kind of just dissipates. I really hope that for you. So I really wish you all the best. I'm just very um so curious finding out what is there anything that you haven't said so far that you would like to say, because it's such a new area for me. I don't really know what else I would ask about Reiki or about that. I mean, it's interesting to find out that you do the Reiki and the tarot, and I'm aware that sometimes when people have that healing capacity in them, that they do use a few different things. So is there anything else that you feel that you would like to say in the interview about the healing process or about what you do that you
Yeah,
feel would be kind of would be something that you'd like people to know about?
yeah, absolutely. Now a lot of us work in different ways, and I want to put this out. I'm going to use more simple words than the Claire audience, because that throws people off. There's like actually 4 different ways we can read. First could be through sight. I had a friend grow up; she could see things through image, and like a video, like a prediction. So it could be in sight. Sometimes it's just through your hearing. You can hear something. It's not you hear voices in your head. You hear a message coming through, like, okay, this is what I need to tell you. And that's not always planned. I do it through feeling. I actually can pick up when someone is not feeling well, and in those instances, I'll tell them to go see a doctor. Um, I can feel when someone's having all kinds of stuff. It usually like pains here, like you need to, like, say for example, if I have something on the side, like, did you have a hip injury? So it's just things like that. So empaths, what we are, we can feel, but we can see. So you're using all your senses. So some people have maybe different combinations. So
Uh-huh. And
yeah,
see,
which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it is. So, but for you saying it's more through the feeling. It's more
Yep.
through the feeling. And
Healing,
so
feeling and
in
hearing.
and in the next 6 months, what is it that how are you going to go about making that transformation? I know it's step by step, so I'm asking a big question, but
No, you are.
you said doing the group is the first thing.
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes these things can take a bit longer than 6, but maybe you're already part through the process. So starting the group is the first thing, I imagine, and then presumably
Yes.
you've had a few clients already.
I do. I actually, even we do big events. So it could be, we have a lot of them in Florida, which is amazing. You wouldn't think that with being in such a conservative state. So they'll have like fairs and events and things like that. They have metaphysical fairs. So you'll have a big to do. So there could be one out in St. Augustine. There could be one out in the Tampa Bay area or out in Sarasota or what have you. And to get yourself in as a vendor is what we would call it. So you would vendor out. But what's neat about this work, I'll probably put it to even internationally. Because really with the technology we have, the blessing of I can do Zoom readings. I can do just what Clara can do. So if I had, so I'd like to bridge it out even internationally, but right now you have to start small scale so people know who you are.
Yes.
You can bring that out. So usually the metaphysical fairs are very good about getting yourself out there and
Ah,
knowing who you are and what you do. Yeah, and there I tell you, there's a lot of talented people in this area. And some people go further. I met a young lady who does even singing bowls, which has sound therapy. Sound therapy, that's a whole nother topic of healing. So there is so many avenues to choose from. But yeah, I think that'll be my next big step in 6 months is to get out there to do that.
to do those.
Mhm.
Well, I wish you all the very best with all of it. I'm kind of quite disarmed, but in a good way, because
Okay, good.
it's all new information. I think it's fascinating when you're talking about the past lives, and also it's fascinating, but also I'm not going to kind of make it like this otherworldly thing, because as you said right at the beginning, for you it's very normal. It's like it's in a way, well, it's miraculous and it's wonderful, but
Thank you.
it's something that you've always had. So for you it feels just like a normal expression of how you are.
Yes, yes, it really does. And I think that some of us it's just how we're supposed to be. And I'll leave you with this final thought. Um, and this has been theory proved to me, is when we come into this world, we agree what we're going to be before we even decide to come into our bodies. So and that blows people's mind when I tell them, I said, trust me, we're part of what I call a karma contract. You stick to that contract. You won't remember it until you're born. I mean, who would? That's ridiculous. So you were probably contracted. You're meant to be a musician, and you're meant to be a life coach and to help many, because you certainly do a lot of amazing things for others. I was
Oh,
contracted to do this. I don't know why, but this is what it is. I try not to question my uniqueness. It's okay.
thank
Yeah.
you. What a wonderful place to, a wonderful message to say, do not question your uniqueness.
No,
Question,
don't.
and how many people like myself will question it? We question ourselves all the time. Do not question your uniqueness. Wonderful. Terry, thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview. I'm entirely fascinated, and as I said, totally disarmed as well by the conversation. And I'm just hugely curious to know. So keep in touch, won't you?
I
About
would love to.
how things progress in the next over the next 6 months. And thank you so much for doing the interview, and appreciate your comments and your contribution in the group as well.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Thank you. It was an honor to meet you finally.
And you too. And take care. We're dissipating Hurricane Ian. Ian, chill out.
Woo! I know. Let's get that going.
Chill out, Ian. Good to see you, Terry.
Good to see you too, Anna. You have
All
a
right.
wonderful day.
All right. Lots of love. You too. Have a
All
lovely
right.
day.
Mwah.
Bye.
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 Bye.